Us everyone, big us, trust you well. Thank you so much for joining me again on the Kyokushin Shuffle as I explore and highlight and get these amazing guests. And today I've got an absolute beauty. So I'd like to introduce everyone to Kancho Doug Turnbull from Sydney. Kancho, good evening to you. How are you?
Yes, well, thank you, Sensei.
Kancho, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for accepting my invite to have a chat. And like I've said, you know, this is a avenue, a platform for everyone to get to know each other and to be upfront and honest. It's the first time I've spoken to you ever in the 20 years that I've been in Kyokushin. So I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to hearing another angle, and as I use the word often, a refreshing, or I guess, view of, you know, someone else that's been you know, in the arts. And may I just say, 54 years. So congratulations on your 50th year in Kyokushin, but 54 years in Kyokushin. What a journey it's been.
Yeah, well, it's been an exciting journey, and I've met a lot of nice people on the way through, and that's what kept me there.
Yeah,
it's been a pleasurable one to be involved in throughout the years that I've been involved.
well, I break the ice as always, and it just lets the ball roll. How did you start Kyokushin? You've born and bred in Sydney, I'm assuming. Was it something that led towards you? We'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, surely. Yeah, born and bred in Sydney, a Sydney boy, and proud of it. And I've had the good fortune to travel throughout Australia through work commitments that I've had in previous. But yeah, my starting career in Kyokushin. Well, I originally started in judo, to be quite honest, and that was when I was a 12-year-old. But and that was with friends that in the street that I lived in at the time, and we got involved with judo, and yeah, that was exciting. But then when I was in high school, and a couple of friends were talking about this karate thing, and I said, "Oh, yeah, that interests me," and we went and had a look at. So there was three of us. I remember Peter and another young man that was involved with us, Arthur, and we went and had a look at a dojo that was based in West Ryde. I was living at Ryde at the time, and we went to a school called Malvina High School at Ryde, and these fellows were talking about going and trying it out, and we went down to West Ryde and had a look at this dojo, and I won't tell you what dojo it was, because we sat there and had a look, and it's quite exciting. It was my first time with karate as such, and then Arthur said he saw an advertisement on a bus seat in town in Sydney.
Wow.
And so we went there and had a look at the place that Arthur had seen there in Sydney, and that happened to be at the time Sensei John Taylor.
Wow.
Yeah. We went and had a look. Three of the time. We sat down and had a look, and I boys and said, "Listen, fellas, this is for me." And we were watching Kyokushin karate, and I dropped out, and both started up, and we enjoyed it. And I'll never forget, at the stage we were in high school, and I used, and as I say, living at Ryde. There's another suburb called Putney, and that's where Peter lived. And I would go down to Peter's place, and we'd practice. We'd practice what we were learning with Sensei John Taylor at the time.
Wow.
And it was exciting going down and practicing the things there, but I never realised behind Peter, behind the property that he lived in, was another property, and there was one of the girls from the school that we went to, and she was watching us practice and all that, and it ended up being a bit embarrassing because she brought it up at school, and that I think that's the last time that we practiced in the back of Peter's backyard, and fighting and sparring in the back of his backyard. But that was exciting. That was the start.
So you're in you're in your teenage, I can, about
Yeah, I
13,
was.
14, 15, something like that.
Yeah, just turning 16 at the time.
Yeah. And now, you go into, we all know Hanshi John Taylor, obviously, and, but at that time, Sensei, and, I've used this with the other legends that I've spoken to in the, late 60s, early 70s. A Sensei title back then was so unique,
Wow, it
such an
was.
aura. Yeah.
It was, yeah, and it was quite exciting and exhilarating to be training uh, with those people in there. When I went from a very first grading, there was I think it was six or seven black belts going for their grade, and we were, I'll say we, the people that were going for the grading at the time were cannon fodder to the people that were going for their black belts, and I remember getting knocked around the floor and hither thither, participating in all of the fighting side of it. But it was enjoyable. Well, actually, probably that grading wasn't all that enjoyable, but it was exciting, and it was something that you remembered, and it stayed with you for the rest of your life.
So what made you enjoy it so much? I mean, I'm not jumping 54 years here, but at that time, what made you enjoy this unique style?
Yeah, it was the hardness of the training. It was the physical dedication the people were putting in. It was go 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 go, and it was very very exhilarating just to watch it. And I thought, wow, yes, this is something that I've got to get in and give a go.
Yeah.
So we did. So we did.
And Sensei John Taylor at the time, as a teacher, and I mean it with you're walking in fresh eyes, raw, and then you slowly progress as you go. How did you, I guess, see yourself as in the future of it? Were you seeing yourself? And I always say, was it something that the black belt alluded you to? Was it something where I know when I saw my Sensei Bill Polly, and then I would see others do the push-ups and just the knuckles on the it was like, excuse me, was there something there that it made you go, oh, I'm going to be that, or I'd like to be something like that?
Well, I mean, it covered the whole spectrum of it. To be honest, Sensei, it was something that you in those days, to be quite honest, the Japanese side of things was not really looked favourably upon,
Right.
and then to get into doing karate, which was a Japanese sport, a Japanese
Sure.
thing that you did. It was, and this is what I was saying when the girls were girl back was watching us. It was something that you didn't really push the issue with.
Yes, I see.
It was. I took it up as a sport. It ended up being my sport, and the activity that I like to do. I mean, a lot of Australians like the football and cricket, and that surely, yes, I did enjoy that. But the martial art became my sport. It was something that I enjoyed doing, and something that grew and grew and grew on me as being. It becomes a part of your life. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
martial arts is a part of my life. It's not just a sport. It is my
Yeah.
life.
Well, that gives us a good stepping stone in understanding the success that you've had thus far, because it obviously got you in your teens, and you were fit, healthy, strong, living in Sydney as such, and such a brand new thing to the world of Australia at that time, more so, and the strongest karate. So you work towards your black belt with ease, or was it something you're in your late you're working towards 18, 19, I'm assuming, for your Shodan.
Yeah.
It's a tough time for some.
Well, it was, and I remember those were the days of the Bruce Lee
Okay.
and all of that, and I enjoy. I was only small and still only small in stature, but
Sure.
big in heart, I might say,
Sure.
and enjoyed the sparring side of it. And at that stage, I think I might have been about the youngest person in the dojo with Sensei Taylor at the time, and
Okay.
it was all of the other people that I was training with were bigger adult people, and I can remember getting in there and sparring with them. You had to bring your own personality out, and it was something that was appealing to me, and became a big part of my life, in the sparring side of it, getting there and enjoying it, enjoying the contact, and because a lot of them were so big, I had to move quickly, and I was always a lightweight. The curve at the present stage might have got me out of that, but but I have always been a lightweight, training through there and enjoying that side of it.
And how did you go? So, I mean, you know, we all got to understand here, listeners, that and I speak naively here, that the tournament side of things in the 70s would have been just starting to, you know, take fruition as such. So did you get your chance to compete, and did you, you know, was the lightweight divisions progressing into middleweight, or were you just lightweight all the way through?
Well, yeah. I did well in the lightweight side of it. I enjoyed that and did well. And then you're looking at the people in the middle and the heavyweight divisions, thinking, wow, you know, that's a completely different division. So at one stage, yes, I did. I tried to put on weight.
Yeah.
And went into the middleweight division. But Sensei Pat, as you know, most fighters like to be at the top of the weight division. And I was at the top of I was just on 69 kilos when I was fighting in the lightweight division. So I was at the top of the lightweight division.
Yes.
So I put on a little bit of weight and then got into the middleweight division, but I was sort of in the lower end of the middleweight division, but I just felt uncomfortable.
Sure.
When I was fighting, didn't feel as quick as I was in the lightweight division, and the lightweight division was exciting, and the people were bopping around and fighting, and it was quick. They wouldn't stand still in the one spot. And when I was fighting the chappies in the dojo, that was me. I was all over the place. They'd throw a punch and I'd be jumping to the side and evading and blocking and hitting, and it was exciting.
Yeah.
Middleweight was too heavy for me.
Yeah.
I just didn't feel comfortable. So I quickly peeled it back off again and went back down to the lightweight division.
Well, I asked because, you know, it progressed later on in the understanding of, if you were a lightweight, you know, you may have to compete against the grand champion, who would obviously be in between the middle and a heavy, and then, you know, the students progressed that for the later day, you know, so everyone was starting to, you know, understand that this is definitely the strongest karate, you know, but that was early stages, wasn't it? So when that was happening, you know, I've spoken to others that had Hanshi John Taylor as their teacher. The guests that were coming in from Japan as such, you know, during that tenure, you know, how fascinating, you know, how did you go there?
It was, and we had numerous Japanese instructors come over, and we competed with them in the dojo, basically anyway. And that was exciting. It opened up a whole new avenue for my thoughts of it, at least anyway. And I can remember being a black belt there, and we used to train on a Sunday with just the black belts at Sydney University in a gymnasium. And one of the things I'll never forget was that we had black belt Japanese instructors that were over at the time, and they were always competitive against each other. And this time we were in there, we were sparring, and then, as you know, you generally rotate around, spar the other people that are involved there, and there's probably about 12 of us in there at this black belt training session. And then all of a sudden we hear all this mighty cries and calling out, and the two Japanese people, instructors, were fighting each other.
Yeah, right.
And I remember you're in the middle of fighting, and we stopped, and we looked around.
Yeah.
And which you don't normally do when you're fighting someone. No. And everyone sort of stopped to watch these two fellas hammering it out against each other, and it was bang bang bang, jump, bang bang bang, down. jump, bang, bang, bang.
Yeah, right.
And wow, that was inspirational. It was inspirational, and I was fortunate enough after that to be able to go to Japan and witness the World Championships over there. I always wanted to compete in Japan and in front of Sosai Oyama.
Yes.
The problem was you had to qualify, and I'd qualified in the out of qualifying years.
Oh, of course.
But in the qualifying years, they only ever took one lightweight. They never took more than one lightweight.
Sure, sure.
And to qualify, you had to come first in that year of the qualification.
Yes, of course.
Which sort of eluded me on that. I'd done previous years, but not in that year. But it was enjoyable and to be over there and witness it over there.
Which one did you go to, Kancho? Which worlds?
Well, I went over there in '84. The '84 World Championship. 79. It's a reflection of what happened there. But '84 was the big year for me over there, and participating in not the actual tournament, but training in Japan.
Sure.
And being part of the Kyokushin organization over there with Sosai Oyama. It was inspirational. It was
Love to deep dive a little there, because it is very rare in that era to have someone, training from an Australian side of things. So when you had this opportunity to train there, how long were you there for? How did you transition? I've got like 10 questions in one here, but how did, because I love everyone to understand it. And more so, again, I reiterate this in every episode. It's an amazing journey. It's an amazing part that, not so many people may not be aware of. So I'd love you to share more.
Yeah. Every Kyokushin student would like to have been participating in Japan and ultimately fighting while Sosai Oyama was watching. Mm-hmm. I had the opportunity again to fight in front of Masayama. Well, it was previously in '77 when he was out here in Australia. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. I broke 2 fingers 2 weeks before the tournament, and Sensei John Taylor, when I fronted up with a bandage around my hand at training, he said, "What happened?" I said, "Oh, well, we were in training and I had an accident." He said, "Well, you're out of the team," and that was devastating. That was devastating. That was in '77. However, in back to training in Japan and training, being part of and training with Sosai Oyama. It's one of those wow sensation. I cannot have that wow sensation to martial arts career, but that was definitely a wow sensation. You think, gee, I can even cleaning up after we training. It was just something that you never forget.
Yeah. So were you one of the culprits as such that would wait outside Ikebukuro Dojo there and be told that Sosai would be approaching at any time and wait for those 2, 3, 4, 5 hours until he arrived?
Yeah. Well, when we were over there, I wasn't over there for a long time. We were only over there on tour with the group. There was probably about 30 of us with the group that went over.
Yeah, wow.
At that stage, and it was an organised training session that we came into and were able to train there, and it was, as I say, that was a lifetime experience. It's something that you would never ever forget.
Oh, fantastic. And when you went to the '84 World Tournament, now that is the creme de la creme. That is, the absolute mecca of the legends that came out of that and personified the strongest karate by far. For those that haven't seen it, you're crazy. Get onto YouTube and make sure you type in the 1984 World Tournament. what was the highlight for you in you know, off the top of your head as such? You know, I'm sure there's many, but that you know, you took away from that when you came back to Australia, you had that conversation with someone and said, unbelievable.
You were right. There was that many of them. You just didn't know where to start. But oh, it was just seeing that power, the people that went in to fight in that, and they had you know, heartless ambition to get in there and fight against their opponents. There was one fight in particular that. And I do not recommend this to anyone to try anything new in a full contact tournament. A full contact tournament is something that you've trained for, you've practiced, you've done the technique. You know what you're going to go through and execute in that event. And we were sitting there, and this one chappie came out, and people were doing get him a washigetis, kicking, get him a washigetis. And this fella dropped down and punched the fella in the front leg, and it was the fella was a shock. He didn't expect it, and of
course,
and this chappie had the gall to do that about several times, and
jeepers.
Yeah, he won that bout through pure luck. I've got to say, because you didn't expect someone to do that. But next time he got in there in the next bout to do it, and he bent down to do it and copped a knee in the head, of course.
Interesting.
that was a different one to do. But you saw all these jumping Yashiro Mawashigetis and the beautiful Mawashigetis that were executed there, and the power of the techniques was just devastating to watch. And you get back, and your training that you did when you got back jumped up from that level there up to to the next level, and you really put the effort in there to mimic what you'd seen, and hopefully get yourself up to a level of these people that are competing in a world tournament.
Yeah, the illustrious world tournament, and more so with you know, Hanshi John Taylor at that time, making sure that his students were, you know, up to that level as well, because of the, I guess, not pressure, but the you know, the level that he wanted from his students was high, because of, you know, the credibility he had also.
Well, you could only take so many people over. Each country could only take so many people over to compete, and that's why I said it was a qualifying event. Japan obviously had the homeland, had the opportunity to put a lot more in there, and it was exciting to see the best of each country in there fighting.
Well, Kancho, you know, when you know, you've had your taste across that, you know, from 64 to 84, there's 20 years. And again, I courteously mentioned that, you know, we've only spoken for half an hour, and we've already covered nearly, you know, half of the journey there. And I guess what we now, I need to be aware of is, once you've come back now, you know, you're into that, I'm assuming a Shodan Nidan level. What was now your feeling? What are you becoming, or what are you starting to notice within yourself as a karateka? You know, and like I say to the others, because we have full-time jobs, and I'm not sure what your full-time job was at that time, and where some are getting married and some are having kids, and there's this beautiful art that is starting to take over a fair bit of time.
It does. and as I said, it was initially my sport.
Yeah.
And it became part of the life. And I found that I was spending more time training, and then the teaching side of it becomes an aspect as well. And you want to impart what you've learned over your years onto other people. So
yes,
that became a big part of what happened. I mean, after the 77 tournament, where I said I couldn't actually compete. I was fortunate that at that time, Sensei John Taylor saw that I was devastated, and he allowed me to get into the officiating side of it as well.
Right.
So I was able to get up there and do some officiating in place of the competing at that tournament, which was a big thing. I remember one of the big ones was when we had the Australian national titles held in the Sydney Opera House. That was a big event. We were the first, Kyokushin were the first to hold a martial arts tournament in the Sydney Opera House.
Unbelievable.
That was unbelievable. And Sosai was there for that.
Yeah.
He was, he was a chief referee, of course, as he was, I should say, in any tournament that he attended. And you're there and officiating. I was a judge at the time, sitting in the corner and officiating, and these fellas are competing in front of Masayama.
Yes.
Which I wanted to do at the time.
Yeah.
But I was up there officiating, and I'll never forget. Sensei John Taylor had drilled into us the official requirements and what you had to look for, and etc. And don't give out a score if you're not 100% on your score.
Yeah.
So that, and these two heavyweights were in there fighting, and one of them did a beautiful roundhouse kick to the head. And the whistles and flags all went out. And the kick had no effect on the person.
I see.
He shook it off and then come in. But there was 3 officials out there with with ippons.
Ippons, not even not a half a point, a full point.
Bags. They came out. Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there waving it off, saying tomorrow's no score.
Look out.
And then the centre referee called Hanshi Taramas, and Sosai Oyama stood up and said, "Stop."
Oh my goodness.
And all of the officials are sitting there, they're shaking, thinking, what have we done? I know it was because I was the only one that was out. I was the only one that was different. And and Sosai stood up, and John Taylor, John Taylor goes over to him, and the talking happened, and John Taylor comes down to the ring.
Yes.
And calls the officials in and put his hand up to me to stay. And I'm thinking, oh, what's happening?
Yeah.
And Sosai wasn't happy that they had scored when they were on the person, and there was literally 4 judges and 1 referee, and I'm still sitting there. What happened? That was one of the biggest things that I can remember through my martial art career in the officiating side of it. It was exciting.
Well, of course. I mean, heavyweights going hell for leather, and then the chief referee Masayama puts his hands up and says, "Just give us a second." Holy smokes!
In fact, we had the sayonara party afterwards, and I'll never forget. Xian Bobby Lowe was there for it as well, and we're all there, and I was taking advantage of the situation, to be quite honest. That I brought my advanced karate and what is karate books in with me, and I thought, if I get the chance, I'll see if I can get Sosai Bobby Lowe to sign my books. And at the sayonara party, we're there, and Sosai's there talking with Bobby Lowe, and Shion Taylor was next to him with that. And I've looked around and I thought, well, I'm not going to get a better time than this.
Right.
I've picked up my book, and I've walked over to Sosai and said, "Oh, Sosai, would you mind signing my book for me, please?" And he looked up at me and said, "Doug-san." And I said, "Of course." He had remembered me from the officiating.
All right.
And wow, that was something special. He's pulled the book and Bobby Lowe wanted to, but of course, what am I wanting to do? To pay attention to say, and Sensei Shihan Bobby Lowe's talking to me, and Sensei's signing my book, and I'm thinking, it was exciting. And I've got to say, I led the field, because after I did that, there was a big line, a big lineup of people wanting to do the same sort of thing, and as I think Sosai would have expected, people admire him that much, and Shihan Bobby Lowe. So needless to say, the book went from Sosai to Shihan Bobby Lowe, and I've got both of their signatures in my books there, and very exciting.
Oh, that's very special. Thank you for sharing that. That is a very special story, isn't it? And I've been someone that, and I guess this is interesting to say, because when we talk about signatures and autographs, it's not a common thing these days in 2020, if I can put it to you. And my son has one of his favorite footy player, and when his favorite footy player, AFL player, Jared Ruffhead, signed the back of his jumper, he was not impressed. He was like, what do you think you're doing? You've stuck my jumper. And but in saying that, how special that would have been. And I was one of those in the early, as a kid, whenever you got a famous, I guess, person's autograph, that's the word, autograph. That's something, and I'm sure you have got that in a nice, safe place.
Yes, I have.
Thank you for sharing that.
And on occasions, and reminiscing. It's
very good.
It's those thoughts that you have from your past.
Yes,
that still remain with you, and but I might say I've progressed on, and I've been fortunate in my early years coming through with Shodan, Nidan, Sana, and that I spent a lot of time travelling interstate. In the job that I had, I was interstate every other week.
I see.
And that was interstate, generally Brisbane, Melbourne, Adelaide, and occasionally Perth. And I spent time, every time I travelled, I took my dogi with me.
Unreal.
Because I generally only spent a couple of days interstate.
Sure.
And then was back training in my own dojo within the same week. And I spent time at the time and I used to go down and pardon me, because when I travelled down to Melbourne, I was in the CBD, and his dojo was the closest, and I would go along and train with him, and I had some very good experiences. More often than not, Sensei George at the time would ask me to take the class, and obliging I would. Not that I really wanted to, because I was, when you travelled, you wanted to train. You wanted to go and train with someone. And I had another lovely experience, which I'll impare to you there. I was down at a tournament in Victoria one year. This is many, many years later. And I had this gentleman come up to me, and he had just won the division in the tournament. He came up to me and he said, "Oh, Shihan Doug, and I said, "Thank you." I wasn't attending anything. I was just there sitting and watching the event. and he said, you would train me or train in our dojo, and you had shown us some techniques and methods of training. And he said, which I had taken up and used, and he was one of Xian George Colliver's students at the time, and he was grateful that I had given him instruction there. And Sensei Pat, I know you're instructing and you enjoy that yourself. It's something when someone comes up to you and has, you know, enjoyed what you have done in the past for them, that's what's fulfilling as an instructor.
Indeed.
And in the years now, I'm no longer a competitor.
Sure.
I'm instructing and officiating, and it's enjoyable to get those. Wow. Okay. The things. Yeah. I'm sure you felt that in time.
Oh, indeed, yeah, and that is the beautiful part of of all martial arts styles, and you know that, and more so the beautiful part for someone like yourself at a higher rank was to be able to travel, you know, and show many others, you know, the again the side of Kyokushin that I can talk openly here with someone like yourself is, you know, where. Yeah, that's the cool bit of, you know, when you get to travel as a teacher, is you get to show what your teacher has shown you to others that may not have ever seen it. And I love that side of it too. I think that's such a cool and beautiful part of martial arts, but more so Kyokushin, because, you know, you train under the one teacher for so long and you commit and you're loyal and you're dedicated, and then a seminar or a guest appears and you learn a trick or two, you know, and you take it on board. It's pretty special.
Yeah. Sensei Pat, every instructor has their own little quirk that they like to do.
Yes.
That and the way they teach. And it's, to be quite honest with you, I'm still learning. And I say that I'll never stop learning.
I know what you mean.
It's something that you enjoy. But I learn from white belts. I learned from, you know, it's not, you don't think that, wow, you know everything. I've been fortunate to travel to Russia. I've been fortunate to travel over to Europe and train in Europe.
Unreal.
And you know, just the different peoples training in Switzerland at training camps, black belt training camps in Switzerland. It's just mind blowing.
Yeah.
You come up against different instructors that have different methods. We're all brothers in Kyokushin karate.
Yeah,
and we treat each other as family. And you enjoy someone saying, "Oh, have you tried this? Have you seen this done before?" You know, and then you say, "Oh, well, yeah, I teach it this way, and I've seen it done this way." And you learn the different techniques through different instructors, the different personalities. I remember one of the black belt training camps in Switzerland that I was fortunate to go to there, and you could choose the different seminar that you went to, whether it was a seminar on Goshin Jutsu or sparring or kata, and one of the ones we went to there, they had grappling, and I did judo, surely, yes, but then I was 12, 13, 14, 15 years of age when I did judo, and but I had never done grappling, and then I went to a grappling seminar over in Switzerland, and at black belt training camp, and I made the mistake when I've gone in. When I say mistake, I've gone in with one of the other black belts, and we were the first in, the instructors in there, and he said, "Has anyone got any experience in grappling?" And I said, "No." He said, "What about judo?" I said, "Oh yeah, I got experience in judo." It was the biggest mistake I've made, because here he was throwing me around on the floor doing grappling, and he happened to be the Netherlands champion in grappling. But as I said, you're always learning.
Yeah.
I was in my 60s when that happened, and and still learning,
Very cool. Are you? I read that you're under the banner of Hanshi Steve Arneil. Is that still correct?
No, no,
No.
I left Hanshi Steve Arneil's organisation in 2017.
When you started yours, apologies. Yeah. So
And
prior to that,
yeah, prior to that, that was my Switzerland experiences
unreal.
and
Yeah, I was
Russian
about to say.
experiences, and
Yep.
I must say, Hanshi Steve Arneil was another one of those wow training situations that you think, wow, that was exciting. That
Yeah.
was, that was something to be with, and I admire him as a person and an instructor.
Very good.
He's passed on some marvelous things to me in the past. But yeah, 2017, I started up my own organisation.
Right. Yeah.
It's KIKO, and I'm fortunate that I've got international links now.
Yes.
With that in UK and France and a few other countries now that have come on board with myself, and I'm
Fantastic.
happily growing that organisation.
Oh, well, good on you. And that again, we're not trying to chop around here, but in saying that, you've had the experience of a Hanshi John Taylor as such in your earlier journey, and then you progressed through the likes of a Hanshi Steve Arneil in the UK and build relationships around the world. And now you have your own, which is the KIKO, KIKO. So for those to look it up, and you've obviously started to work a lot harder is probably the word there, isn't it? It's a different angle running your own ship.
It is. It's a completely different thing from training to running an organisation and keeping people up to square with what they should be doing and that side of it. But I mean, I've got good foundations. Sosai Oyama taught us well.
Yes.
Overall, and his theories, and that's what I'm trying to follow through and maintain that. I have also taken another avenue out there, which I mentioned to you a little bit earlier, and I've got into Kobudo.
Yes.
I started that up really for myself.
Good one.
Yeah, something as an interest. I've always been interested in weapons. Well, coming through in the early stage, I must say I had no interest in weapons at all. It was just the fighting, the empty-handed side of it. It was Kyokushin was enough on that side of it. I still, I'm not saying that Kyokushin is not enough at this stage, but
I get you.
the weapon side of it took on a different angle for me. I got involved in 95 in different tournament circuits because once I actually left the ACA organisation in 1995 and joined Steve Arneil in 1995. Then ACA used to run their own tournaments, their own events, and they were very, very strong and still are very strong. However, I had to find then other events that I had to do to nurture my students and bring people through. So at that stage, I started up with the National All Styles NAS tournament circuit, and that was exciting as well. I was with that for many years coming through, and then I ventured off from that and started up with an organisation called AMAC, Australian Martial Arts Championships.
Yes.
And that was with now Kancho Peter Malonis. He's the president. I'm actually the vice president of the Australian AMAC and the chairman of the Australian Martial Arts side of it, and the vice president of the world.
Yes.
Martial Arts Championships. And we get to travel throughout the world doing the events, and it's exciting. And this is actually probably what led me onto my weapons, my Kobudo.
Yeah, right.
Because we would be seeing these events coming through, people doing the different techniques and the different weapons and that. And one of the instructors that came on board and was an official was Johannes, and Kancho Wong is very proficient. He's now in his 75th year, and he's teaching Budo and Okinawa and Goju and also another style of martial art, karate called Nahate, which he's I've taken that on board as well. It grows the imagination, it grows the abilities, and very exciting. I've managed to get myself up to a fifth dan in Kobudo, which is quite exciting. And
so can I ask, the weapons, and again, in respect of the time you've spent and the knowledge that you have in this area, but I'll try and tap into it as best I can. The weapons that have you selected or when you go into this type of a student approach, are you selecting a weapon, or are you selected weapons? You know, so did you pick the bow or the nunchaku, or or are you given certain weapons per year? Like, could you walk us through that for the non-Kyokushin weapon lads and girls out there?
Surely. Well, in Kyokushin we had bow. I remember having the bow from the third. But we started with Kancho. It was bow initially, and you learn the different kata with bow.
Yes.
And progress through. You do that. You get your first black belt, and that's basically learning bow. And sai becomes a part of it as well. So you're using those two weapons, bow and sai, initially. Right. But then as you progress through into the next level, the next dan, you're learning more bow kata. You're learning more sai kata.
Yes.
And then you take on weapons as well. Tonfa becomes a weapon as well. As you progress through, I think that was Sandan, I took up the Tonfa, and you'd learn a kata, progressing through there, and then the next fourth dan level you learn another kata with your Tonfa, and then we've taken up Karma now as well, which is the sickle.
Right.
And that is I was a bit worried about taking that one on board, because it is a very sharp and lethal weapon to be practicing with, and very easy to cut yourself. Whereas bow, and I might say nunchaku as well. That's another one that came on board, and I must say I ended up with a few bruises here and there, but the karma is something that you don't have a bruise, you lose a piece of flesh.
So
that's exciting. It's exciting. It is.
Yeah. So it's a weapon per. And can I just tap into it for my knowledge as well? Is it a two, like, it takes 7-8 odd years to get your shodan in Kyokushin. What is a black belt in this level? 2-3 years and structured once per week, twice per week. What are you doing?
In the Kobudo side of it, because it's not like Kyokushin karate or any like Goju karate either.
Sure.
I mean, you're looking at 5 years to get your shodan black belt.
Right.
In Kobudo, you can do that in just under 2 years.
I gotcha.
For a black belt. Surely, yes, you have to keep on train.
Yes,
practice,
of course.
Train, yeah. And as Kancho Wong keeps on saying to me in Japanese, he says, train, and more training, you'll get there.
Yeah, of course.
And then so then the next one is another maybe 18 months again on top of that, and
I see.
And then it goes on and on. So I've been doing it just on, I think, probably about 8 years now.
Fantastic.
And I'm heading for the 6th dan.
Yeah, well done. Isn't that exciting? Yeah, that is cool. That is an angle. She and Billy Polly pushed myself and 2 other students. We trained as Hizushi Deshis for a full year every day. And on one of those days was a weapon. And he gifted us the bow. and I treasure that bow. And he just showed us one technique, and it took us. We could only do that one technique for the month in that class, and that was just to learn how to rotate it, and to learn how to rotate it, and to learn how to rotate it. And then we were getting all cocky and greedy and started to flip it. And he's like, "What are you doing?" And we're like, "Oh shit, back to the." And then after that,
I can relate. Yeah.
And for those that haven't dabbled with a weapon, you know, if you have your shihan or higher ranked, you know, question it, ask them. It is an exciting part, because then when the kata element comes into the weapons, it gives you the plan B, I call it. You have your plan A, which is, you know, your basic katas with no weapons, empty hand karate. But then when the weapon comes into the kata, you feel like plan B has just shown, you know,
Correct.
Something else has happened.
It's correct. It is. Yeah. I was talking to Shihan there today. I've just come from a tournament today with New South Wales. It was New South Wales Championships, state titles. And I was talking to a Shihan from another style. It wasn't Kyokushin. And he's doing the Kobudo at the same time as I am. We have private lessons, and we go and see our sensei, which is Kancho Wong.
Yeah.
And this Shihan, he was saying to me, he has some health problems, so he's cutting down on his karate side of it. But
sure.
he was saying that holding that weapon actually gives him more feeling, more stability, and he's doing more of the weapon side of it now than he was with the karate side of it. And he's encouraged himself and enjoying it with his wife as well.
Yeah, I had a just on that as well. Shian Lance McGuinness here in Bendigo in Victoria. He has a good pedigree of the bow and the weapons, and he showed us some tricks or two at our camp. And again, you know, it opens your eyes. It makes you appreciate, you know, the next, you know, another side of what's going on to martial arts, not just Kyokushin. Yeah, it's pretty special.
Yeah. Well, I've actually taught the bow at, and this is before. We were actually I was actually teaching, learning with Hanshi John. I've actually taught it to the juniors in the class, in the karate class.
Yes.
We used to do it maybe just once a month, but to give them focused distance with the juniors. You'll find, you know, they might punch and they might be punching this far away.
Yes.
But then when you get the bow there, it gives them the perspective of distance, supposedly I noticed easier than the punch.
Right.
So I had been doing that, and once I started up doing the Kobudo with Johannes Wong, and students started to ask me, more so the adult students, they would say, "Oh, Kancho, can you teach us this? Can you?" So now, in actual fact, I do a full-time Kobudo class once a week.
So yeah, no, fifth Dan in it, and the knowledge for sure. That's exciting. That's good to hear, to be honest, because you know.
And I've got out of that sensei. I've got a Nidan and onto three Shodans in Kobudo.
Well, I guess for some of the listeners, if you get it, if your brain has gone into where mine has in it, and it is the I guess other side of, or the other platform that Kyokushin / martial arts offers students that are not full contact karatekas, that are not kata practitioners, but there is also, you know, the weapon side, and it's something very special. I like when I see someone like yourself, or like a Shian Lance McGuinness, or even my Shian, when out of nowhere he would put out, he came with the size and did he did pinyan sono go kata. One of the katas, Sien kata, where it comes down like that. Sien shin.
With the sai.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
And
very
did
impressive.
that, boom, with the sai. And I went, that's going, yes. And
excited.
So if you get a chance, listeners, have a look. Kancho, thank you for sharing that side of it. It is refreshing to hear. It's very cool. Kancho, you
Yeah.
know, what have we got? Yeah, look at that, 55 minutes down. It flies. And I mean, 54 years in martial arts. Again, respectfully, I'm not trying to squeeze it in an hour. It's just the fun chat that we have in the shuffle. And, you know, I appreciate your time with it. But from here, Kancho, you know, your dojo and your teachings, and I guess, you know, a little bit also in expanding on the World Martial Arts Championships, the Australian Martial Arts Championships, that angle, you know, the floor is yours for 5 minutes to give, I guess. And I brought this to you before we recorded this, because even myself, I wanted to hear the side of where that growth is going, you know, with, you know, you had a tournament today and there's COVID and there's things happening. But if you could give us, you know, the next 5 minutes, the floor is yours, and just sharing with the listeners that listen to this about that angle as well.
Surely, surely. I run my own KIKO tournaments as well, Sensei Pat, and the COVID has affected that greatly. I haven't been able to do my own KIKO tournaments this year, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I was fortunate to have our own camp at the beginning of the year.
Right.
AMAC, Australian Martial Arts Championship, I'll just refer to it as AMAC.
Yes.
They've been trying to maintain contact for the students that are wanting to do tournaments all through the COVID side of it. They've run online tournaments, which a lot of people weren't too keen on that aspect of maybe having an online, because it wasn't, you know, I shouldn't say not face to face, because you're watching as I'm watching you now. It's still face to face, but it's not in actual, you know, real. We can't touch and feel. But AMAC ran that all the way through, so that people still train, because we haven't been able to train at home, or at home we have, but we haven't been able to train in the dojo because of the close down with the COVID. So people were able to maybe just do their training at home.
Yes.
So AMAC has still been running those events. They've and I must say, Kancho Peter Malonis has been an active participant in chasing up the government with the rules, regulations, and making sure what's actually been allowed and not been allowed to do.
Yeah.
We've been still trying to run. We tried to run the one down in Victoria, but that fell through, unfortunately, because of what happened. But we've had regional events that we've been trying to maintain as well. The regional areas in New South Wales have been very hard during the COVID side of it, because I've had officials that have rang me up and said, "Oh, Doug, I'm not able to come in, because if I come in, I've got to spend 2 weeks in isolation when I come back, and that affects my teaching, my dojo." So that's all been happening. We've been fortunate that we have been able to run events up in Queensland, up in on the Gold Coast, and with AMAC, and that's been successful. None of the events have been up to capacity that we have had in the past. I mean, the event that we had today was a state title event for New South Wales. We've had bigger round one, round two events in Sydney than we have had today with a state title. However, the people that turned up, I was speaking to instructors there, and they said, "Oh, my people have been hanging out for events, hanging out to be able to participate," and that was all good. Overseas, with the World Martial Arts Championships, we had one planned for over in Portugal earlier this year, and with COVID, needless to say, there was a nail on the head of that, unfortunately. So that was called off, and in Japan, we travel over Japan every year with JMAC, Japan Martial Arts Championships, which is let me explain that. WMAC is the parent body.
Yes.
World Martial Arts. AMAC falls under that.
Yes.
New Zealand.
Yeah.
NZAC New Zealand falls under that.
Yeah.
US MAC falls under that. Japan.
And
falls under that.
my naive question, sorry to not to cut you off there, but Kyokushin fits where in there? Can I ask you that? Kyokushin is the full
Yeah,
contact, or is it full contact is the style or the title of it? Or can you walk us through that as well for
yeah, sure. They have all the different divisions. From one is point sparring, no contact. Then they jump up to freestyle sparring, which is touch contact. Then they jump up to points contact, which is point sparring, but you must make a certain degree level of contact in that. And then they jump up to full contact.
Roger?
We went through today. I had Kyokushin fighters fighting in the heavyweight full contact division, and it was quite an exciting event. So yeah, I'd encourage Kyokushin people to get involved with the full contact side
Yes.
of this.
Yes.
But listen, I just said encourage them to get into full contact. I would be encouraging Kyokushin fighters not just to do full contact, but I've got to say I learnt through in 1988 when Hanshi Steve Arneil came out to Australia, and he took a class with Hanshi John Taylor at Bondi. We ran a class, and he pointed out to us at that stage. At that stage, the ACA side of it had dropped all non-contact sparring, and we're just concentrating on full contact. And the Brits came out for the Commonwealth Championships and the Kyokushin Commonwealth Championships. I'm talking.
Yes.
And they wiped the slate. They cleaned the everybody out in the Commonwealth side of it. And when Hanshi Steve Arneil took the class over at John Taylor's dojo, Hanshi John Taylor's dojo, he pointed out the fact that you had to do point sparring to increase your speed, to increase your accuracy of your technique. And that was essential, and showed us with his fighters how that transpired. I don't just full contact, take advantage of the event and part of the tournament circuit. The tournament builds up. They have rounds in each state that qualify for a state event, and then once you qualify for that, you participate in the state event, and you participate in the national tournament. So they only take a certain amount of people that win each division into the next qualification. And then you qualify to be a country representative. You could go over to Japan, over to New Zealand, over to the other countries as a representative for your country, for your dojo, for yourself, to compete overseas. And you have to come once again at the Australian titles in the top ranks people to be able to qualify for that.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that, and I mean that because of again with what's ahead. We're positive side of 2021 now. Let's just here in Victoria that is, but again, everyone in Australia that might be listening, it's definitely something to contact Kancho Doug and his team in regards to 2021. I'm sure I will. I know Xian Billy and I have been talking about it. So, we have to expand our side of, the tournaments and students more so. And you just gestured it very well. The full contact is not for everyone. But there are angles in improving and trying and, expanding your, training or whatever it might be, your goals in just day to day, So that's excellent. Thank you for explaining that. And that gives us a nice ending as such. Kancho, the floor is yours for a couple of minutes. I mean, we don't get, I know I haven't spoken to you, ever. And I mean that respectfully because of, when we always are at tournaments and so on, it's very short and sharp and quick. But, your dojo, can you share with us where it is, and for some that are passing through, hopefully when we all get to fly around the country and the world as such, it'd be great.
Yeah. I've been fortunate through the years and had a lot of overseas visitors come and train with me, especially when I was with the IFK there. I used to have visitors from every link coming over, and they come and train with us. My dojo itself, it's Marrickville Karate Club. It's based in the inner west of Sydney, and I'm happy to have people come and train. It's I'm very much open to my people training elsewhere and for people coming to train with me. So I'd be happy to see visitors come train with us in Sydney in the inner west.
Very good. Kancho, thank you so much for your time. An honor speaking to you. Well done with your 54 years in martial arts. Congratulations on all the work and time and effort and energy that you've done across all the martial arts circuits in growing the sports side, I guess, and the promotion of, you know, the activity of lifestyle and well-being. I see it, and I congratulate you. Well done.
Thank you, Sensei Pat. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us on board.
Good on you, Kancho. Thank you so much. And to listeners, Kancho is on Facebook and so forth, and his website. So be sure to look it up. And what an honor talking to Kancho Doug Turnbull. Thank you so much. Big us.
Thank you.